I think we might actually be hearing the
A400M.
Yep, here she goes. She's powering up. She's starting to move down the runway now. Now, what she usually does, incidentally, so watch out for this, is she's going to take off and she's going to climb very, very steeply, a very high rate. It's a high rate of climb, but it's the angle of climb I think you'll find that she's going to go for. Now let's just watch this now. Yeah, there you are, and into a right banked turn. He's using flight envelope protection there, pulling the side stick, and this is a side stick controlled aeroplane, right back onto the stops, which is literally an instruction by the pilot: give me all that you can give me. Okay, now he's gone into level flight just momentarily, and carrying out quite a slow but fairly steep banked turn. He's not right on the stops at the moment. This is all fairly gentle stuff just now. Coming round to line up with the runway. The runway, of course, is the line that all the pilots use to line up the axis of their displays. And just for safety reasons, they're not actually allowed to come closer to the crowd than that runway line.
Now, the A400M, this is MSN2, I believe, this particular aircraft. I think they've got 3 completing flight tests at the moment, because it is in an active flight test program, being brand new aircraft. And Craig Hoyle caught up with Ed Strongman, the chief test pilot, earlier in the week, who was telling us that they're currently testing things like flying at night, flying in formation, the 2 of them together, testing the opening and shutting of doors in flight. So what challenges do these represent for pilots when they're going through it, or are they fairly comfortable with what they're doing? How do they cope with unexpected things? I mean, you don't know what's going to happen until you've tested it for the first time.
Well, in the good old days, I think with aeroplanes that you were testing for the first time, you weren't very sure what you might encounter. Nowadays, with computer-aided design, with all the data that we have now for the airplanes are designed to be able to do certain things, and generally speaking, that's what they turn out to be able to do right from the start. It's really a question of proof of concept. You designed an airplane to carry out a whole range of maneuvers within an envelope, and you're just making sure that it can do that, and that it doesn't give you any surprises while it's doing it. So that's really what they're trying to find out. I mean, there are things which you can get if you stress an aeroplane out under certain circumstances at certain speeds. You can get flutter developing in the flight controls, in the flight control surfaces, or on your wingtips or something like that. And it's like a flag fluttering in the wind, and you've got to know whether that's going to happen, so that you can aerodynamically modify it so it doesn't happen.
A380 just preparing for takeoff, and I've got online news editor Dave Kamitsky-Morrow, who's here again. Hi Dave.
Hey Mike, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, very good. So the A380, we're seeing it for the 4th time this week, but it doesn't get any we don't get tired of it, do we?
No, it's still very much a crowd pleaser, very much a head turner. It's kind of getting the same kind of reputation that Concorde had when people see it at the show. It's still turning people's heads. People still
kicking up a lot of spray, because we've not seen a wet weather display this week.
It's been a bit. The weather's taken a bit of a downturn today, but of course it's no problem at all for this particular aeroplane.
So we've just seen the A400M, another Airbus aircraft, obviously demonstrating his envelope protection. This is something that's obviously a big part of this aircraft as well.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just basic to the Airbus philosophy, the fly-by-wire philosophy of protecting the aircraft from flying outside of its envelope during normal operations. It's been part of that Airbus philosophy for years. The A320, of course, well known for having introduced that kind of protection, in-flight protection, and the Airbus family since it's had it, and it just you can see just. I don't know about you, Mike, but to me, I'm not a big fan of seeing the A380 on the ground. But in flight, I don't think you can really argue that it is an extraordinarily graceful aeroplane for its size.
This shows that. Oh, here we go.
We're out. We're out of the aircraft.
So the first, we've got at least. So I think we have 10. Is that?
Yes.
11.
Yesterday we had them trailing flags. So I can't see any flags today, and they're all over the place.
In a good way. They've got such tight control of those moves. Bobbing and weaving. It is. Oh, now this chap is going to land.
Oh, here we go. It's the first.
There we go. There's another one down.
Extremely steep descent.
That's incredible. Look at the pace he's coming down. How's he going to
Oh,
that is real pace.
This display is the longest one at Farnborough this year. It goes on for a long time. These guys are really working for their living. There's a lot of G-force, mostly positive G, mostly straight through the seat of your pants, but we're going to see some manoeuvres in which there's a lot of negative G. That's you're upside down and you're pushing a lot of G. And personally, I don't like that very much. It makes your brain feel like it's going to explode, and I never really enjoyed it. These guys really are going to earn their money over the next 10 minutes or so. Just watch them.
I believe that these aircraft, these extra 300 LP aircraft, sports, really light carbon fibre sports aircraft, are capable of pulling up to 10 G, David. Now,
yeah.
what might that feel like to a pilot pulling that kind of gravitation?
Frankly, if you didn't have a good G suit on and you weren't fit, you would be unconscious in about a second, because all the blood drains out of your head. And so your brain just stops working, providing that doesn't go on for very long, doesn't do you any harm, but it tends to interfere with your flying skills for a little while if your brain stops working. But they're used to it. They do have G suits on, so they can keep themselves conscious whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Right, now here we got one of those synchronized maneuvers where they're coming in from opposite sides of the aerodrome, and you have a look where they lead. Yes, and of course when you get, let's say, a pair splitting off to do a synchronized maneuver, when the pair splits off, one of the pair is designated the leader, and that, yes, if you were tuned into the radio, you'd hear that they were talking to each other all the time, the leader of whatever group's working at the time, giving very crisp commands.
Ricardo Travers, the Super Hornet show pilot and flight test pilot, who's probably flying there today. All of these aircraft generate a tremendous amount of heat because they have sensors on board, they have radars, they have electronic warfare systems, and as they operate, they create heat that has to be dissipated, that has to be dealt with somehow. Or the equipment itself overheats and stops functioning. So the way an aircraft like this will do it is it radiates the heat off the aircraft, just dumps it off the aircraft. Well, of course, that increases your IR signature, something they didn't want to do with the F-22, and so and the F-35 for that matter.
The C-130J, obviously.
Yes, and Lockheed Martin would tell you that it's a completely different aircraft than the one that first flew in 1954, designed by Willis Hawkins, the famous Lockheed Martin aircraft designer and inventor of the C-130.
So what does the J model have as a significant part of this upgrade?
Yeah, there's so many cool things about the C-130, right? And the C-130J. I mean, for one thing, it was the most unlikely aircraft to ever come out of Lockheed Martin in the 1950s. You know, you think about the 1950s and Lockheed Martin, you think the Constellation, the Jetstar, the F-104 Starfighter. You know, it was just, you know, they were into the high-performance things. Willis Hawkins came along and he had a design for the C-130 to meet this cargo aircraft requirement that came out of the Korean War. And he showed it to Hal Hibbard, the chief engineer at Lockheed Martin at the time, and Hal brought in Kelly Johnson, the famous founder of Skunk Works and his top engineer, and brought him in, asked Kelly, so what do you think? Well, Kelly was a fairly blunt guy, and Kelly responds immediately, if you fund this, if you bring this forward, you will ruin the company. I'm paraphrasing, but that was basically what he said. He probably said it even more strongly than that. Obviously, Kelly Johnson was wrong. One of his very few mistakes about estimating the future of aircraft that we've seen. We talked about the SR-71 earlier. That was the invention of Kelly Johnson. But the C-130 is, from that humble beginning, has proven to be amazingly, long-lasting, and it's been in continuous production for going on 60 years.
What does it owe its success to, Steve?
Well, I mean, so many things. It was designed. The funny thing, it was designed to be purpose-built for
making noise.
Yes. For dogfighting, to be the ultimate air superiority fighter. And it certainly is very effective in that role. But what it's also been able to do is transform itself into a very effective air-to-ground fighter.